Welcome to the first episode of the Southeastern Connecticut Metal Podcast. I got to come up with a better name than that. I got to get something catchier. But anyway, I wanted to do this, and it's going to be sporadic from here on out. I'm not going to make this into a regular thing, but every once in a while, I think it'd be good to put some information out there by some of the movers and shakers in the metal scene. Eastern Connecticut has always been the quieter side of the state, but there's a lot of talent right now in the metal scene, and we're trying to build something up, and you can really feel some momentum building, and just wanted to kind of help everyone understand who's out there doing things right now. So first interview today is with Dwayne Eldredge. He's the singer for the Straggler, which is a band that's been around for about a year, but he's been involved with the metal scene in Eastern Connecticut for 20 years, easy, and he's very connected. We kind of call him the godfather of metal in Eastern Connecticut. So a very interesting interview. If you have suggestions for people coming up in the future that you'd like to hear me talk to, bands or people, just let me know. I'm sure you can find me online. But that's that. Here's our interview with Dwayne Eldredge, the godfather of Eastern Connecticut metal. All right, I'm here with Dwayne Eldredge.
Hey.
And Dwayne, you have been, it's alleged that you are the godfather of Eastern Connecticut metal and that you are basically the Don Corleone of Eastern Connecticut metal. How do you respond to those allegations?
I don't know about that. I try to do my best with the scene out here. Disappeared from it for many years, and about 5-6 years ago I started doing stuff again, and just stayed with it the last 5 or 6 years and met some really cool people, including yourself.
Do you think there's a correlation? You said you disappeared from the scene for a while, that the scene also disappeared when you disappeared, that there might be a reason for that?
It only disappeared in my eyes because I disappeared from the scene. I'm sure there was something going on, but when I came back, I did my best to put myself out there and connect with people. I did it through scene of Southeastern Connecticut entertainment networking events, and I tried putting together events and getting everybody together with internet, TV, and radio, and local businesses, and some of the local bars and stuff, and it worked out pretty good, and I've stayed with it pretty much straight through now.
Yeah, you are definitely one of the most connected people that I know. Anytime I've been like, anybody have connections for out-of-state shows, you'd send like 50 of them over. So I would definitely want to ask you about that later. So you are a dyed-in-the-wool, 100% all-in lifestyle metalhead. How long have you been into metal? Can you even remember?
I've been in the metal since I was about 12, 13 years old, thanks to MTV when it was in its glory days. Europe was actually the first band I got into. It was a little lighter than metal, but it's what started it. And then through friends and videos and Headbangers Ball and all that, I moved on to King Diamond and Annihilator and Metal Church.
So are you one of these guys that had like an older brother or a cousin or an uncle that was like feeding you metal, or did you have to discover it on your own?
I was the oldest, and I had a friend of mine that had an older brother that was feeding him, and then he was feeding me.
Yeah, I always envy those guys because I was first generation metal. I didn't have anyone like that. So same thing for me. For me it was Def Leppard. Seeing Def Leppard on my parents wouldn't even let me have MTV. So
Def Leppard was actually my first live concert,
and they're still great to this day. But I picked up Def Leppard from Nickelodeon Rocks. That's how bad I had it. My parents wouldn't even let us have. They had MTV. Literally, they had to go to the cable station and have them block it for our house. It's terrible upbringing.
We had MTV, but
Amish.
I had to sneak it, and it was sneaking it when I saw the video for Superstition from Europe.
That makes it even better.
And then I got the TV in my room as a teenager, and then that exploded from there.
That makes it, the fact that you have to steal it and kind of go underground with it makes it even more metal. So you're currently playing music. Just tell us, what band you're in now, what projects you're in, and also what other ones you've been in the past, because you've been playing music for 20 years probably.
Yeah, I started out in a hardcore band called Demigod for several years. And that morphed into a power metal-ish project with some extreme metal influences called Apparition. And then I took a break from music for quite a while, and I came back as the lead vocalist for a band called In a Blackout for a few years. Put out a CD with them called No Tomorrow, and then moved on. And I am currently in a band called Kill the Straggler that plays a mix of traditional metal and modern metalcore, hardcore, with some death influences here and there.
You guys really are kind of hard to define because you hit a little bit of everything. Trying to explain you to people is not easy. I just tell them they just gotta go.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I would say we're Iced Earth 1 minute, we're Killswitch Engage the next minute, and we're Death the next minute. So it's whatever. And then I have an extremely huge love for doom metal and atmospheric doom metal, death doom and all that. And I'm doing a side project with you, obviously, Decayed Spire. It's a slow little thing that we do on the side when we have some extra time, an extra, I don't know, little breaks in between here, a little something to get away from the Kill the Straggler all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice, and I really enjoy doing it.
You said Def Leppard was your first show. Was that in Connecticut?
It was. It was at the Sub Base with Ugly Kid Joe.
Wow. Ugly Kid Joe. Do you remember your first, I guess, like underground metal show, like local metal show?
I don't remember exactly which one would have been the first, but I do remember seeing Life of Agony 4 times over a couple-year period.
LNG?
At the LNG. I remember seeing a lot of shows at the LNG. I seemed like I was there every week seeing a national act, anywhere from Dream Theater to Testament to Life of Agony, Madball, Marauder, Biohazard, and Propane, Crowbar. Those bands seem to be there. All Overcast, Shadows Fall, they all seem to be there all the time.
I mean, the thing about the LNG was like, it's local. It wasn't big. It wasn't like even a Toad's Place or a Webster or whatever. And I think you could easily just sort of overlook it. But now that it's gone for good, because it died like 8 times, but now it's gone. Like there's no coming back now. It sucks, And there's a couple good places. 33 is really good with booking metal shows, but I mean the LNG was something else.
Yeah, Strange Brew does a good job with live music. 33 Golden does a good job. And the Music Lady recently letting us it's more of a private hall situation there. They're not really booking the stuff. We're taking upon ourselves to do it, but they're allowing us to do it, which is great.
Yeah, and she's been real cool, Patty.
Coming up with the Moose Lodge is something we're going to do. Hopefully work on some other ones. I have some other venues in mind in the Norwich area.
That's why you're the godfather.
Once we get rolling, 2017 should be pretty good, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like momentum is building. There's acts, there's bands, there's people that are interested. We played, your band and my band played at Strange Brew. What month was that? June, right?
Yeah, I think so.
June, July, whatever. And people just showed up. There was just people there. I think some of them weren't even necessarily there for your band or my band. They were just there, and that kind of, it almost seems like a scene is evolving again.
They're hungry for the metal. They haven't had it so long that they're hungry for it.
It's only can be a good thing. What you've obviously been all over the area. What's your favorite venue, past or present, to play in Connecticut?
It's actually past. I used to absolutely love playing at Legends Rock Bar. Glenn that used to run the place was fantastic.
Where was
the
that?
Local metal scene. It was over in Gales Ferry, Connecticut.
Okay.
And Glenn was absolutely amazing with the local metal bands and rock bands and stuff, and it was an absolute pleasure to play there every time.
Cool. What about your favorite place to see shows?
My favorite place to see shows, depending on which way I'm going, I would say the Worcester Palladium brings in a lot of the music that I like, and then the other way it would be PlayStation Theater, and in New York City and the Chance in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah. Yeah, I notice you are willing to travel for shows. New York here, Boston there. You got to do it. This is going to be a hard one. What because you know a lot of people, you're obviously connected and stuff, but what are your favorite local bands? And I guess I would say past or present on that too.
Let's go past. And past, I would say I used to I love the Crossthread guys.
Shout out to Ryan Crossthread.
Yeah, and
Ryan Blasphemer.
Bill Bates, and I've stayed in touch with those guys over the years too. I used to really enjoy going to see them play and practice. Tyrant Trooper, I absolutely loved back in the day.
The great Tyrant Trooper.
And I followed Ron through his Bonnet Through Hate stuff too, and until his passing. But I enjoyed a lot of stuff. I remember Blind Hatred being a favorite to watch back in the day as well, locally, and Drop Method.
Blind Hatred. I haven't heard that name in a long time. They were scary.
Savalis Youth too is another one that comes to mind. And then Overcast and Shadows Fall. They were fantastic bands to see live back then. But moving into the modern day, Continuum is a fantastic band from the other side of the state. Crossing Rubicon is an exciting band. They're a great group of guys and gals. The locals to here, Casting Shadows and Holding On to Nothing, and my band Kill the Straggler, and meeting new people every day and running into new bands every day. It's pretty cool.
Can we get back to, you mentioned Overcast. I saw Overcast a ton of times too back at the Tune in New Haven. It seemed like every weekend they were playing with Dissolve and Section 8. And I feel like I don't need to be politically correct. This is my show, right? So I'm allowed to say what I want. Kids, listen, Overcast. You got to check out Overcast. The bands that sprung from Overcast are Killswitch and Shadows Fall, right?
Yeah.
Overcast is better than both of those bands by a large margin. I mean, so much better. Those new bands are, people love them and stuff, but they're commercial. They got pop hooks. They got all this stuff. Overcast invented that stuff, and they were Brian Fair back in the day was one of the first guys to ever scream like that.
Yeah, I remember him putting so much into his shows back then. You see him, just keeled over off stage after the show because he just put everything out there.
Yeah, the first time I saw them, his dreadlocks were like down to his neck. If that.
It was. He went from Rage Against the Machine to Chris Barnes overnight.
It's unbelievable, but and especially their album Expectational Dilution, which came out in mid or late 90s.
Yeah.
Not produced very well, but just so good, and they were all young at the time.
Was, I thought.
Yeah, for the time it definitely was. But I remember hearing that for the first time because up until then, in hardcore, you just didn't hear the screaming. It was a lot of kind of like, I don't want to say clean vocals. It wasn't melodic, but it was a very human sounding voice. And the first time you put that on and you hear that come out of somebody, and now everybody does it. It's commonplace, but it's just incredible. So, my recommendation, anybody listening to this, if you haven't done so, check out Overcast, and not their new stuff. Go back and check out Expectational Dilution.
Well, they did update and re-record some of the old stuff on the new release, and it was pretty good.
Like Grifter, just right out of the gate.
Absolutely.
Awesome song. Anyway, I digress. Could you pinpoint your favorite ever Connecticut band?
My favorite ever Connecticut band.
You can't list a band that Bill Bates is in. I know that narrows it down.
I wouldn't.
Take that, Bill.
Although he does make every band he's in better.
Of course.
Absolutely. And bigger.
Yeah.
Out of Connecticut, I don't know if I could name a favorite. There's been quite a few. I also enjoy Dead by Wednesday. They do a great job here in Connecticut. Very hard workers, put on a solid show. They really get people going. And there's so many different genres too. I mean, there's the death metal genre with Continuum and Chaotic and Eyes of the Dead, and then there's the more of the hardcore sound, and with and some of the younger bands are pretty good. I don't know. I can't really pick a favorite, and I don't want to pick a favorite. I don't want to.
Yeah, it's hard for a smaller state though. There's definitely, I mean, there's a major metal hardcore scene in Connecticut, and there always has.
And I'm
been.
discovering new bands all the time. Discovering Virus of Ideals and Shadow Kingdom, and every day it seems like I'm stumbling upon somebody new that I should have known and somehow missed, or they're newcomers and they're breaking into the scene because the scene keeps growing.
Yeah, it's enormous. Speaking of the kind of the current state of metal in Connecticut, I mean, there's new bands springing up all the time. Speaking specifically of Eastern Connecticut, what's your opinion of kind of the state of affairs of metal in this side of the state? Because this is definitely the quieter side of the state as far as activity.
It's definitely quieter in comparison to the other side of the state. I would say it's maybe 20% of what the other side of the state offers as far as diversity and the
but 100% more Bill Bates
amount. Yes. What we have over here is growing, and it is getting better, and people are coming together to make it happen. I do wish there were some more bands out of this particular area. Seems to be in short supply. No short supply of musicians. I know musicians all over the place. They don't seem to get it together enough to get the band going.
To be able to organize.
Yeah,
it turns out that maintaining a band is difficult.
It is extremely difficult.
Dealing with personalities and goals and schedules, especially. I mean, neither of us are spring chickens.
Yeah, I remember, when I was, 16, 17, 18, we were practicing 3 days a week, and we were playing shows.
Yeah.
And music was our life, and that was it. But then things happened, like jobs to pay for bills, and
right,
and wives and children, and, well, not for me, but, other responsibilities come into play.
And it seemed like the issues back then were more about having enough money to actually buy an instrument, or not having a car, or having to get someone to drive you to practice. But once you got there, you could practice all day, and you had no responsibilities. And now it's the opposite end of the spectrum. And a lot of the guys I've spoken to would readily admit that even though they've been playing music for 20, 25 years, they're worse now than they were back then, because they're just rusty and they can't commit the same time to it.
I certainly don't play the guitar like I used to, although I've been really getting into playing guitar again lately. So it is getting better again. But I used to donate all of my time to playing the guitar, and it showed in my playing ability back then. And I kind of fell in love with the singing bug when I couldn't find any singers to front any of my bands, because all they wanted to do was just scream, and that's all they could do. So, but I fell in love with singing, and that's kind of the route I went, and I kind of put guitar off to the side for a while, and I kind of fell in love with guitar again. I missed it. Just as I did music, I actually fell apart from the scene for about 6 years, I would say, where I really didn't do anything at all in the scene, and I missed it so much. If I could go back and do it all again, I definitely would have never taken that break.
Speaking of, I've been playing guitar for probably 20 years, but with me, I've been just repeating the same year 20 times. That's how far I've gotten. You're a big progressive metal guy, traditional power metal kind of guy. Just speaking of all over the world now, you're wearing a Blind Guardian sweatshirt right now. What are your
I'm wearing a Blind Guardian sweatshirt and a Night Demon t-shirt.
There you go.
Night Demon is more of a new wave of British heavy metal style sound. Blind Guardian is a symphonic at times power metal band with major folk influences. And I listen to a lot of progressive rock as well. Neil Morse is one of my favorite musicians, from Spock's Beard back in the day, and now the Neil Morse Band, Flying Colors, and all that stuff. I huge into that. And I also am a huge lover of death metal and some melodic black metal, doom metal as well. Um, it's all over the place. I love happy power metal and I love heavy power metal.
Yeah.
I love depressing music and happy music. I love satanic music and I love Christian music. As long as it's done right, I like it. And there's a lot of stuff out there.
And I think in Kill the Straggler, you can hear that just from the way you sing, because you have melodic. You obviously you scream and you do some death metal, but you have a lot of kind of power metal influence. There's a lot of vibrato, and it's kind of obvious that you pull from everywhere.
Yep. Dio definitely my ultimate influence vocally. And Bruce Dickinson and Matt Barlow, the early Iced Earth stuff. And, Chuck Schuldiner with Death and Tardy from Obituary. I mean, those are groups I grew up with trying to emulate their death metal vocals.
Right. Yeah. We mentioned before that you are very connected in terms of knowing other musicians and clubs and promoters and stuff. Does that come natural to you? Or are you somebody that went out of your way to meet people, or?
Well, it started out from playing shows with other people and meeting people by chance, but then going to other shows and meeting those people at those shows and putting myself out there and keeping tabs on what's going on in the scene so that I can be part of the scene and put myself out there in the scene physically and through social media. And some of it's through jamming with a lot of people over the years in different projects too, and then they move on to other projects and I move on to other projects, and then we see each other and go, hey, well, let's get our projects together and let's do some shows, and you just put myself out there. I'm not shy about it, and you have to give to get too. You can't just expect everything to come to you. You got to go out there too.
Right. And I'm sure you'd admit that, social media and the internet has helped out, because like when we both started in bands, there wasn't that. Like you had to call people and you had to, get in good with other bands.
It was go to the events, flyers everywhere, calling people. It was just constantly being out there. And now it's not quite so much that, although you still have to get out there if you want to get anything done. But social media definitely helps get the word out and make people aware that you're out there doing things, whether it be promoting shows or actually putting your music out there in video or audio format for people to listen to,
Having been that you've been around so long and you have played both sides of both promoting and playing shows, and what would be some of your advice for younger bands coming up?
Just do it. Get out there and do it. Don't make excuses. Just get out there and do it. And listen to the older guys that have been there. And
that's the hardest part sometimes.
It is. But, I see some young guys going out there and do it, and they've got the right attitude and everything like that. Just be smart about it, and be willing to learn and grow.
What about for people that are looking to put on shows? Because you've put on shows. There's a couple names that are coming to my head right now of kind of upstarts that are trying to get things going here. What would be recommendations for people that are trying to put on shows?
Just reach out to people who have been there and done it, and put yourself out there, and don't be afraid to ask questions to get the answers you need to make it work the way you want it to work. And if you have new ideas, that's great. Bring them up to people and use other people's input to go with what you want and see if you can make it all come together and work.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. You really do have to have your ears open and be willing to listen to people, because my first time ever promoting a show was in September, which is Pete Fest. I had never done anything like that, but I've done similar type of, and I figured I'll figure it out as I get in there and stuff. And then every once in a while, your message would pop up from you, and you, by the way, a little word of advice in the future: don't do this or do more of this, And I think if people, instead of just trying to reinvent the wheel, if they get someone like you or get someone who's shown a track record of doing this and making it work, that you're gonna be able to cut corners a lot easier and get things happening, rather than being as frustrated by it.
Yeah, and I would say if those bands or promoters want to work their way out of this general area and branch out so that they have a little bit more of a reach or a pull, it's to get out there and meet people. And that is definitely the best way to do it. You can reach out to them online to start things, but you really need to get out face to face and shake people's hands and talk to them like they're human and put a face to everything, and on both sides.
So basically, you're saying that you are the heavy metal equivalent of a small town politician. Kiss babies, the whole thing.
It has to be that way sometimes. It's fun that way too, though. You have to make time. I mean, you'll have more fun than you might think you would have. You'll get out there and you might say to yourself that I don't really want to go all the way out here. I don't know if it's really my scene or whatever. But you get out there and you're gonna find yourself having fun and meeting new people, and you're gonna be thankful for it in the long run.
And that's what it is. I mean, a scene is a collection of people, right, coming together that know each other. And I came up in the hardcore scene, and I mean, there were times that you would go to a show, you didn't care who was playing. You would just hear there was a show, and you would just go, and you would see all your friends, and that's. For anyone listening that's lives around here, that's what you want. Don't just wait for the great bands to come out, the ones that you like. Just go to every show. That's where you will make friends there. That's where your friends will be, and I mean, it just beats any other thing you're gonna do.
Might be 4 or 5 original bands there that night. I guarantee that at least one of them is gonna make you feel good.
Yeah, and
if not, the booze will.
And you'll mosh, or you won't if the club won't let you. But I mean, you'll be hanging out with people, and that's, I still have friends from way back then that I haven't seen necessarily. They moved away, but still keep connected and stuff. And I think that's a huge kind of side effect of being part of a music scene, whether it's metal scene or whatever.
What I like about the shows of recent in this past year, I've done a lot of good shows in this area of Connecticut. Which I didn't do for several years. I had to travel to get to do shows because there wasn't much going on here. And what I liked about it was that I've gone to those shows and I see a lot of young people at the shows, but I also see guys that were at those shows 25 years ago with me.
Yeah.
And they're still out there supporting.
Yeah. That's definitely a cool thing. I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and I remember going to hardcore shows, when I was 18, and seeing some of the older guys there, like the really old guys, like the 26-year-olds, and kind of wondering what they were doing. I'm like, aren't you supposed to be married? Aren't you supposed to be, having a career, doing other things other than this? And here I am on the other side of being married and career and all that stuff, and like it's kind of all I want to do on the weekends is go to metal shows. Like it doesn't have to die, It's always good if you like it. Do it. Exactly.
Yep. It'll always be a part of you.
Speaking of scene building and old friends and stuff, what's your favorite Bill Bates story? Keep in mind that there might be young people listening to this, and that probably takes away 90% of what you could say right now. But your favorite ever Bill Bates moment?
There are so many Bill Bates moments. I've known Bill Bates a very long time. I wasn't.
You didn't need to admit to that in public, but go ahead.
I wasn't very close with him at the beginning, but I do remember seeing him. I actually followed Crossthread down to the New Jersey Metal Fest back in 1999. Watched them share the stage with Amorphis, Iced Earth, Hatebreed, Vital Remains, Biohazard, Sepultura. Absolute monster festival back when Jack Koshek was putting on the best metal fests in the United States. So I remember that and going to their local practices behind the L&G Club, and then the local shows at the L&G Club all the way up. Then we skip ahead many, many years where I lost touch with Bill and Ryan and all those guys through adulting and stuff. And then getting back in touch with Bill years ago to work on music that we've done more recently. We were in a band In a Blackout together, and for a short time, a power metal band called Never Say Die. We had a little thing going as well. But Bill's always been a pretty fun guy to be around. He's got a good sense of humor. He's a smart dude. And definitely has the same love for music that we do. And
literally can't get rid of any musical equipment he ever bought. So,
but the best thing about Bill is definitely bath time.
oh yeah, Bath Time with Bill.
Definitely bath.
Shout
time.
out to Bath Time with Bill. You guys got to check that out on Bill Bates' Facebook. He takes pictures of himself taking baths.
I'm pretty sure he has a bath time podcast too or something.
There are bubbles though. There are bubbles obscuring anything that could be distasteful. So
yeah,
that's good. The first Bill story that jumps to mind for me is at that show that we played at Strange Brew a couple months ago, and it's not a huge place, but a little pit broke out, a little circle pit. It was casting shadows or something. Circle pit broke out, and so I got in there and I'm doing the whole circle pit thing, and at some point Bill just decided that was enough circle pit, and he stuck his arm out, and I stopped. He just stopped me dead in the track. Like, you're not gonna push Bill over. And he just stopped me. I thought, just boom, it's over. It felt like I was running into a brick wall.
I remember pre-gaming a little bit. Bill was out on the dance floor, strutting his stuff on camera like a dirty
Bill's got
stripper.
Moves. He's got moves.
Oh yeah.
What are you looking forward to in this current year, upcoming year, 2017, in the world of metal? Not just necessarily Connecticut, but upcoming releases or tours or anything in particular you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to Kill the Straggler getting into the studio and actually releasing
Aren't we all?
A full-length release. Playing more shows, obviously, and expanding our live market. And
now, can I just ask you this? So,
yeah.
You're talking about Kill the Straggler, the band who Kirk from Crowbar wore their shirt on stage when he played in.
That was pretty funny.
In Providence. That's the Kill the Straggler you're talking about?
Yeah, it felt
Kirk
pretty good. Been watching
Winstein.
those guys for 20-something years, and he gets up there with our shirt on. It was a pretty good feeling.
That was awesome.
But hopefully we get to do more stuff like that. And aside from that, I'm looking forward to a lot of stuff in the metal scene coming up in 2017. Going to a lot of shows. I've already purchased tickets to several shows. I've got trips planned to New York for see Udo Dirkschneider, the original voice of Accept, doing all the Accept tunes for the last time ever.
Balls to the wall!
You got it, man. I love Udo. He's one of my favorite singers of all time. And Neil Morse Band doing this new Similitude of a Dream, start to finish, 2 hours of that plus an encore. Just unbelievable musicians. And also Sabaton headlining their first ever U.S. tour, and rightfully so, because I've seen them 3 times open for bigger bands, and they were the bigger band that night. They absolutely blew everybody off the stage every time. Hammerfall that same week is coming to New York with Dwayne. I can't wait to see that. I actually had a chance to see Hammerfall with Death before Chuck passed away years ago, and I was sick, and I did not go to the show, and I hate myself. I absolutely hate myself for it. But I'll at least get to go see Hammerfall. And plenty of other things. I used to just pick special shows to go to and limit myself, and now I've pretty much just said screw it, and every time there's something out there that I want to see, I do my best to go out and see it.
See, that's what happens. That's a benefit for not having kids.
It is.
Because you get to do stuff like that.
It is. I mean, I do have a job that has some crazy hours, and I enjoy it a lot, but I have flexibility with that job, so I am able to get out there and do things.
You do have an interesting job. What do you do exactly?
I'm a carpenter, stagehand, entertainment technician at Mohegan Sun Casino, doing work in the entertainment department, putting on, for the concerts, mostly in the arena and the ballroom, and it's fun. I enjoy it. I've learned a lot over the last few years doing that, and it keeps me close to music that way as well. And I've met a lot of really, really cool people, mostly the employees I work with. They're fantastic and have some really great stories.
Can you get Holding On to Nothing to open for Def Leppard that next time they come through? Do you have that kind of pull?
Not. I'll just call Joe Elliott and have a little word with him.
Yeah. That'd be great. You are the guy with the pull. You're the Godfather. Any just lastly, any social media contacts you want to talk about? For your band or where people can look you up.
You can look us up on Facebook, Kill the Straggler. We also have a Reverb Nation page, and you can friend me on my private page as well, and feel free to ask me any questions that you have about putting on events or doing an event with us or just anything in general music related. You can feel free to just give me a message, and I'll do the best I can to get back to you and help you out.
Plugs and shout-outs.
Plugs and shout-outs. Well, I want to thank some guys from this past year. Justin Marcotte out in the Rhode Island scene for helping us out with some cool gigs. Music Lady, 33 Golden, Strange Brew, Jason Wallace over there, Craig McAllister at 33. Those guys for helping us out, letting us come, make a real lot of noise in their clubs. The guys from Casting Shadows have been fantastic to partner up with. Dan Jackson. I deal with him a lot closely. Bill Bates, Charlie from Holding On to Nothing. They're a really great band. No matter what they say, they're a good band. Looking forward to their new release as well. I've heard a sneak peek, and you guys are going to like it.
Yeah, don't promise what you can't deliver.
No, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be the best album you've ever bought in your entire lives, people.
Yeah, let's end on that note. We'll close that up there. All right, so again, thanks to Dwayne Eldredge, Kill the Straggler, the Godfather. And to Kate Spire, of course, the godfather of the Eastern Connecticut metal scene as we know it at this time. Look forward to more of these episodes. They will be sporadic. I'm not gonna do them on a regular basis, but when somebody pops up that I think is interesting and worthy of talking to, we'll definitely put these out. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
All right, thanks to Dwayne for taking the time for this interview. I have one other interview somewhat lined up. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag and tell you who it is, Casting Shadows. But I'm working on some other interviews. I do want to use this program to play music, and because all of the bands that are on this side of the state are unsigned, I will play their music, and I won't ask their permission, and I'll just do it. And if they don't like it, they can fight me. So that's what we're going to do. So what we're going to play right now is the band that you heard coming in. This is Crossthread. This was a band that sprung up in New London in the 90s. And it had Ryan Crossthread on vocals, and he had been in a bunch of stuff, and he had been promoting shows back then, as well as Bill Bates played bass in that band. And this is their song called Isolate. And if you look this track up on YouTube, you'll see a picture of Ryan singing this song on stage at the L&G at some point in the 90s. He's wearing a Danzig shirt, and your humble host is sitting behind him on the stage. But anyway, here we go. Crossthread with Isolate. Isolate by Crossthread. By the way, Ryan from Crossthread, previously of Crossthread, now runs Blasphemer Records, and they're doing a great job putting out hardcore releases, specifically like the darker, more chaotic type of hardcore. Check them out. Head to his website. It's blasphemerrecords.com. Blasphemer is spelled BLASPHEMOUR records.com. All right, and speaking of Dwayne, here's his band Kill the Straggler with their song Fight My War. Keep in mind, this is a demo version, and Dwayne's probably not going to be happy that I'm putting this out there, but they are going into the studio soon, and we will get an even better version of this in the future. Here we go. Kill the Straggler with Fight My War. Look them up on Facebook. Just look up Kill the Straggler. We're going to finish with one more song, but before we do, if you are in a band, a heavy band, and you are in Eastern Connecticut or Connecticut, and you'd like your song played on here, let me know. I am interested in playing local bands on here, especially if you are a metal or hardcore band. So send that to me. Look me up. The best way to do it is through Facebook, and that's that. All right, we're going to end with a track by Holding On to Nothing, a band from Norwich, Connecticut, starring Bill Bates, who we were talking about earlier in the interview. He used to be in Crossthread. This is Holding On to Nothing with Before His Time.
Time heals all wounds, they say, but I can't